Hi, my name is Prem Asim Jain, and as part of this video, we will continue to work on our library management program. So far, we were able to create the client, and then we were able to retrieve students from the initializer component. Then we created the registration functionality, we added it, and we are able to get that new student added to the in-memory database, the collection, and now we'll proceed ahead. So let's try to run the happy path scenario first, and then we will go for the exception handling of the program. So what we are going to do is, do you have the student ID? You say no, I don't have the student ID. Then you have to register him, and we can say Superman is the name of student. Once it's get registered, he has got the ID, which is 4, and his name is Superman. And that's how you can now retrieve anything or the Superman. So we will say I have the student ID, and ID is 4, and we are able to retrieve. But the problem is, once someone tries to input the roll number which does not exist, and we see the ugly exception, and then we don't get the option to continue the program, which means the program flow has exited abruptly, which is not a good interactive program. So we need to catch it, where we need to catch it, and how we need to handle. So there is something which is called as defensive coding. So we can first do a catch block, and then we'll do the defensive coding. We will have two layers for this. So from where this exception is actually coming from, it is coming from the client.java. Client.java here, where you are trying to get the student. So first thing, you can do a try catch, so that program will continue. You can say try, and then you can do a catch. Now in the catch, either you can go to the specific exception, or you can do a diaper padding, which is called as catch all the exception. Whatever comes there, you can catch them all. So this should be after this. So there is also something which is called as finally. You can put something over there. Now there is something which is called as the block scope. Since the student is in this block, it's not accessible outside. So we might, how do we solve this problem? So we might need to promote it. We promote it here with the null, and then we will assign it over here. So now this guy is in scope, which means that this is no more inside this block. It's above that, so it's accessible here as well. You are trying to, your student was null, and then you got to retrieve it. Once you got it, you can say invalid student ID. I think we have a else block somewhere which speaks same thing. So this thing was the module entry, but this guy would be a little bit different. Please enter valid student ID. Now let's try to run and try to put something, and we would expect that program will not accept abruptly, and then this kind of ugly red messages should not be thrown on the face of the user. I want to retrieve, I want to retrieve 007, and it says please enter a valid student ID. Student retrieved is null. Do you want to rerun this program? We will say 1. So now the thing which you might have observed is still once you made a garbage entry, but program was polite enough and allowed you to continue the flow of the program. It didn't exited or kicked you out of the program, right? So you still have the opportunity to correct yourself, which we would do right now, and we are able to retrieve Mohan from this, and we can rerun. So this is how a try and a catch works. But one problem is we don't want user to see null, so we could do something about it. So catch can do a corrective measure. So we'll just assume that whenever there is some problem, either you shouldn't show this message, or you can assign a default value to the student, which means if you think that there would be something always at 0, so if nothing comes up, you can get this thing here and assign it so that this does not show as null. But that is not good, because or you can have at 0 number you can have a default student that way. So I'll tell you what I mean. Over here is we can promote Naren to number 4. And this would be a system user. So people have this for testing or whatever. So other users would be actual user or whatever. But first you can generate it as a system user. When nothing comes up, you might have a system user which might get printed over here. So now we will run and we will end up creating our try catch block coming into pictures. So you have got the student ID 0, which is a system user. This is how, and then you are also saying please enter a valid user. Another way of doing this is you can do this printing as soon as you get this, so that this line would not run at all. This might get still the assignment, but you don't tell user as user has been retrieved even though the ID is invalid. So we'll try and rerun that situation. We have 1 and then we have 1. Okay, we have 1 and then we have 1 and then we have 100. So now it says it was a invalid ID. That's all. Please enter valid student ID. Cool. So I think we are pretty much stable for the student stuff here. Uh, so I told you two things when we started this video. First was to have the try catch and then defensive coding. So what does the defensive coding means is you, before this thing happens, you can presume and preempt and interact with user. So what you're going to do is you are going to get the student ID. So you can do a conditional check real quick if the student ID is more than list of size of student, which you will get from here. Library manager will tell you how many students are there. So if there are 4 students, 0, 1, 2, 3, and if this guy is more than whatever is the size you want to retrieve, then there would be a problem, right? So you can do -1. Let me just check. If I have 4 students and I'm trying to, so fourth student ID would be number 3. So if I try to type 4, yeah, so we might have to do this. If this thing happens, then you can, without even running the logic, you can say this is an invalid ID. Please enter a valid ID. And then, so we are giving another chance, nothing else. So your program is nice and polite, and it's more user friendly. So you need to tell something, rather this thing, second chance. Please enter, rather this guy here. So that you can get, they can get another chance and they can correct it. So this is a conditional block. We'll just test this. And in here, even if they miss in the second chance, then we will say, sorry, student cannot be retrieved. It's invalid student ID. So this is hard language, and why we are using this? Because first he did a mistake, then we have given him a chance and he did a mistake again, and then he's trying to retrieve. So he will get the scolding, and so that they don't, repeat their mistakes again. So we'll try both the scenarios here. First scenario is we will do student ID. Let me just check how many students we have. So we have till 4, which means 5. We have list 5, 4. So let's try to retrieve a 5. Please enter a valid student ID. 4. Cool. This is good program. So it works fine as expected. What we targeted, same thing. Now we'll try to make mistake and we'll try to mess with the program and see how it reacts. Do you have a student ID? Yes, I do. What's the student ID? My student ID is 7. Please enter valid student ID. Yes, my student ID is 8. And then it says here, and program is still running fine. No exit, no looping, no null pointers, no array out of or whatever. So this is called as defensive coding because we defended in this situation to avoid all whatever try catch blocks shouldn't get retrieved over here, and this code probably might be a unreachable code. So if we want, we can remove this from here. So I hope this session helped to understand how we do try catches and how we do the defensive coding to avoid the risky scenario to happen, and the messaging to the end user.